Hello, Facebook world. Evelina Rose here. I have the privilege of channeling the Council of 12, and I'm delighted to offer this to you. It's like an audience with spirit. It's a chance for you to sit down with really wise beings. You can ask questions inwardly. They're likely to get answered by your own guidance or the Council. And you can type questions into the chat box, and they'll be given to me at some point during the channeling. So let's begin with centering. Deep breath. Allow yourself to center. Flow right into your grounding, arriving in the core of your body. I ask the angels and archangels, please create for us a crystalline temple of radiant energy for each person listening now or later. And weave for each one of us a chrysalis of radiant light filled with the rays and vibrations needed by our life and by this work. Clearing all energies not of the light. I ask God, Goddess, source of all that is, encompass us in so much radiant light that only beings serving love, light, and truth may participate in any way. Highest truth is all that is spoken. Deepest healing and guidance is received. If you will, breathe and ground, calling in your most radiant high self and only those guides and angels who serve the heart of love itself, universal light, as I welcome in the Council of 12. And the beautiful beings of radiant light here to work with us. Greetings, dear ones. We greet you, we bless you. It's a privilege and an honor to speak with you, and we're always delighted for that opportunity. And know that you may get answers on your own. You may follow some imagery at some point. That's guidance working with you. You can come back and listen to these words later, if you wish. So the realms of light are very active right now in relation to the light workers on Earth. Because what we know is that a new species is evolving on Earth. Some call it Homo noeticus, having all means of knowing open. Some call it Homo luminosity or Homo luminous, meaning being open to the light above you, to yourself on a multidimensional level. So huge waves of change are happening on the planet. And for all of you, the planets Saturn and Pluto are moving together in the sky right now, which means deep lessons and deep changes in the structure of your personality. And you can't say, ooh, or you can go, yes. And the best response is yes. When the heavens are offering change and growth opportunities, the best response is support me in moving through these waves of change. Help me find my strongest path. Sometimes you even want to say to your soul, okay, soul, you put your hands on your hips, okay, soul, you got me into this life, now show me how to live it and give me the resources for being able to negotiate these waters of change that sometimes feel like white water. And your soul will respond. You will start accessing more information and knowledge and wisdom, perhaps in your dreams, perhaps in your meditations. It's really helpful for you to get very quiet, like in a deep meditation or the twilight zone before and after sleep, so that you can hear what's thought of as the still small voice of guidance or of your own soul. And when you're quiet enough, you can tell that's not me thinking. That's when you get what people call downloads, when information can come in from your soul and serve you. Now, the conscious mind would like to know what that is and tell me the meaning and how I'm supposed to use it, and it wants a lot of facts. But in these rapid times of change, your rational mind is not going to keep up. So you just say, thank you, dear mind, I love you. Take notes, we'll talk later. Right now, I want this spiritual experience. Because the questioning can actually interfere with the download or with the connection to the light. And you've got plenty of time to process it. It's probably good if you feel that you are really receiving data from your soul, from spirit, from nature, whatever you want to call it. It's a good thing to journal and to, in a sense, capture some of that in your more normal state of consciousness, because memory is state specific. So if you meet us in fourth or fifth dimension, we can have a fabulous communication, a little conflab with you and other beings, and you come back to third dimension and go, oh, that was fascinating, and they said, and it's really hard to make the transition. So do yourself a favor. Once you've had that kind of time, take your journal to where you meditate or have it by your bedside and take notes. It's not so much recording all that you received, because it may have been nonverbal, but recording what you learned, recording what it sparked in you, your insights, your inspirations. Then you come back to it later and you go, whoa, that was really wise. I forgot about that. Well, you didn't forget. It was in a state of consciousness, and it's still there. And if you go back into a meditative state, you can probably access it again. It just didn't make the transition into ordinary consciousness. So a lot of growth is learning how to negotiate these different levels of consciousness, transportation from one to another. So you find yourself grumpy and in a terrible state of mood. You get to ask, do I want to be here? And if not, what do I want to think instead? It's not a spiritual bypass of ignoring what's there, but what do I want to think instead? Maybe it's part of me is feeling really grumpy. What does that part need? Now you're accessing a higher state in you that's able to be there for the part that's grumpy. It might be, I wonder what this is about. Oh, I'm still grieving that my friend suddenly walked out of my life. And this is the place that wants to tell her off. So maybe you create a scene with the angels around absorbing the energy and you tell her off. Or you nurture and love that part of you that's caught in the grief. So that part feels someone's here for her or him. We want to really be here for these other aspects of us that just by nature of having been the ones wounded by life, they are way less able to get to the higher states of consciousness. So you might say that your wisdom self, your spiritual self goes into these states and gathers information and compassion and consciousness and brings it to the parts of you that are still somewhat bound by the past. And it helps to set them a little more free. But you don't have to imagine you're only okay if all of you can access those states. It doesn't work that way. You're in a human incarnation for a reason. And all those things that happen to you are part of the reason. It's your curriculum. So you get to access your professor's wisdom, let's say. You get to go into higher wisdom and then be there to work the curriculum without judging or making it wrong. We know people who say, I thought I'd done enough on this. Why can't I get over it? Well, you did. And you got over it at the level that that work was. And then you spiraled around through something in your life that triggered it again. But you're not in the same place. You're a little bit higher on the spiral. So you get to do the work again. And then you're free until maybe you spiral back around to that same place. But every time you work through what comes up when you're in that particular trigger, more of you is present for the growth and to be able to hear the wisdom from higher states of consciousness. So we do have some questions. Thank you, Natalie, for sending your question. And one of them is basically, so do we really need more protection when we embody more and more light? Or is that really coming of a place from fear and separation? You were told you were given a boa as a totem animal, that's a strong one, and that you didn't protect yourself enough. So, and maybe with light, you don't need so much protection. So we'd love to shift this word for light workers from protection to sovereignty. When you're in the realm of, I need to protect my field from everybody else's energy, you're in more third dimensional consciousness, me against the world. And it comes from a place of fear. When you're evolving into more and more light, then you want to use the light to build a sovereign field around you. You want to allow the light to surround you, encompass you, and build a stronger and stronger field of light so that it only allows love and light in and anything else bounces off. So you can program it with that I'm building this strong field of light because I want my aura to be strong. And remember the back, because so often people think of their light and it's front and maybe sides, but remember the back body and build the light up and around the back and the feet and all of you. So you're in a sphere, like a luminous, luminous sphere, egg-shaped sphere of light. What that does is it gives you a vibratory rate where other energies are way less likely to come in because they're vibrating at a much lower rate. So you don't need to protect against them, just rise to a level of vibratory rate and a consciously constructed and reinforced auric field. Not reinforced, that sounds like the battle term again, doesn't it? Just a sovereign field. Sovereign's an interesting word. So sovereign is like a queen or a king or a ruler of some kind. But there are many rulers who aren't sovereign within because they have to rule by force or violence or coercion or manipulation. A true sovereign simply lives at the heart of what wants to happen in that kingdom, queendom, that territory of theirs. And other people get ignited with the dream and the visions, and they want to serve in the way they're meant to serve that bigger vision because they're doing it for the community, not because the ruler told them to do it. Then you're evolving something that's beyond anyone's conscious understanding. And that's what you want with your communities now, is to create enough connection and interaction that everyone's voice gets heard and that it might evolve beyond what the creators or co-creators thought it was going to be, because it is collaborative. That's the word of these times, collaborative. If you're working with guides, or we would even dare to venture to say spiritual teachers who tell you what to think or tell you what to do, thank them. Let them know that you'll take it into consideration if you wish, and ask for radiant beings of light who want to help you evolve your highest path and your highest energies and your highest evolutions. So you still have guidance, but you're calibrating to the highest source. So another thing we'd say about this field of light is it's wise to ask your guides every few days, every week or so during these times of change. I call upon the highest, brightest, clearest of my guides and angels, always use the invocation, to recalibrate my energies to current time, to bring all the energies of my soul and my personality and all parts of me into the best calibrated alignment with today, who I am now and who I'm becoming. And it just kind of gathers you up from the past you've not yet quite completed and the future where you've put out fears, brings you into now where the resources are the greatest and you can do the most from that center. So let go of protection and work with sovereignty. And we think that will resolve the confusion. There's still times, even when you're sovereign, like if Evelyn is teaching, she might come away with some chords in the back of her heart of people going, oh, I want what you've got. So then you just clear them out and you smudge your field and maybe use frankincense and myrrh and bring in your light and recreate the sovereignty of your field. Doesn't have to take very long. If you're in a public place, you come home tired, cleanse your field. Over time, you learn to be sovereign enough that you take very little on, but even if you do, so what? Cleanse it. You don't have to make it so strong that no one can touch you, because while you're building your sovereignty as a light worker, you're also building your compassion as a daughter or son of the divine, helping others to recognize their divinity. So when you're in your compassionate heart, people might reach you. Great. They're attracted by something beautiful. Maybe they learned something by being in your field they take back to themselves. You thank them and bless them and honor them for caring and send them all home. Wonderful. So we have a question from Peggy. Yes. Integrating myself into my business. What next steps to take? Good question, Peggy. And we think that part of the answer is every step you take towards self-love, self-nurturance, building that sense of sovereignty is a step toward integrating into your business. And then we want you to ask some really deep questions of yourself. Maybe record the answers or draw what comes when you answer them. Questions like, if I could express what's deepest in my heart, what would it be? If I could be of the highest service to the divine and be totally me, my expression for the divine, what might that look like? There's a way that you've held, I'm here and I'm creating this business. When you're really integrated in your business, then you're here in the heart of the business because you're operating from the desires in your heart. When you ask Spirit, guide me, show me what to do, or especially you say, I'm willing to be of service, show me how to serve, the answers come as the desires in your heart. And you look at that and go, oh, I couldn't do that, or that feels kind of selfish, or I don't know how I would describe that. And some would say the how is God's job. So put yourself right in the middle and then recreate your business to express who you are, because that's what you're most here to do. It's what you're best at, and no one else can express who you are. So you get really curious about, if I could give my greatest gifts, what would I be giving? If I did something with people in this business I'm creating and I came away fulfilled, What might I have just done? So it helps the visioning process. If you want, do Femifesting. There's a video on EvelinaRose.com on Femifesting. It's a little different from manifesting, which is you go from here and you figure out all the linear steps to having your business. Femifesting is more than a play on words. It plays with the fact that the feminine works in gestalts, in the whole picture. So you call upon your brightest, clearest future self who's fully integrated in her business, loves it, is fulfilled by it, it supports her, people praise her for it. It's just a fit in her world. And go sit with her and have a cup of tea. And ask her to show you every aspect of her life and how she has worked each piece that you're not sure about yet, what she's offering, how people respond. And then, but only once you've really seen her life completely, ask her how she got there. And ask her about what you think of as hurdles or barriers. What'd she do about those things? Because it's already done. There's no time. So you're basically arriving somewhere that your soul's already there, and you're putting an anchor there that then draws your life to that fulfilled life. If you call upon a future self and your future self isn't very fulfilled, ask for a brighter, clearer, most radiant future self. And that will help you to kind of jump over some of the things that you don't think you can surpass because you see you already have and it works. Mostly people step back from fully being in the heart of their business because they don't know if they can or if they're enough or if it's going to work. And so when you see, oh my, whoa, the world's ready for me, now I get ready for who I am when I'm offering that. It guides you. And before you leave your future self, ask her or him if they're willing to guide you so you can say, future self, show me what to do next. And then have a nice embrace and just let your energies merge so you bring back some of the wisdom from that future self when you come back to yourself. Then go for a walk so you can integrate what you just experienced, or journal. So, another question from Natalie. I have done some inner child work and was hoping it would help with my arthritis, as I understand the two are linked, but I can't see a difference. Well, we would suggest, Natalie, that it took a long time for the arthritis to develop. It may take a little while for it to dissolve. And you can help that along by imagining, if you can get a picture of what arthritis looks like and what normal looks like in that joint or part of your body, then you can imagine the arthritic picture slowly dissolving into the normal picture. That can be helpful. It's also possible when you're doing work with inner child that there's a child under the child or a child under that. The inner child work that's the most challenging to clear is what's before verbal. Infant, toddler, baby, newborn, or in utero. So the best way to do that work is work with Divine Mother. We do this in a lot of sessions because we can hold her presence steady with you. But if you can, that's great. She can, if you will. So ask Divine Mother to come and ask her to help gather up all aspects of your self that got lost in trauma in the past. And ask her to go all the way back through every age and stage, all the way back to young child and toddler and newborn, infant, newborn, and in utero. And just gather up every age and stage of you and go sit in your heart, make a love fest in your heart. We've often spoken about having an altar in your heart. Well, have a really comfy place. And you can have Divine Mother in a big rocking chair or big couch that everyone can sit on in your heart. So She gathers all your inner children to her. We think that people want to think of child, adult, but it's really parent, adult, and child. And where there's been a lot of trauma, it's children until you retrieve each one from whatever memory they're caught in, and then they integrate into child. So if something isn't moving, you want to have move. Patience, self-love is part of it. And the other part is look deeper. Is there another part of me? Not to blame the child, because you can't find child selves if you go in with who's causing this. But maybe is there someone who's afraid of my legs functioning properly? Or is there someone who's running all the time and it's making my legs sore, or whatever it is? So you go find what wants your support. We think of these parts that got caught in trauma as they rescued you, because what dissociated isn't the wounded child. What dissociated is the part of your soul that grew up, that's your light self, your light being self, that grew up to get spiritual and be able to ask these questions and do the healing. So they rescued you so that you weren't so wounded that you couldn't evolve. Now you go back and rescue them. So if you come with that attitude of, oh, thank you so much, and I know it's been really hard for you here, and I'm here now, and I love you. And the way you find them is any scene that sticks with you from childhood. Ask Divine Mother to go with you to find that part and bring them here into now. We think there's an article on EvelinaRose.com about soul retrieval that will give you more guidance for that. So, Tamaris, yay. How do I really unite all my parts and eternally blossom in my success through discipline? I'm afraid of my power and want to get past habitual sabotage. Isn't it interesting? Oh, continued. I have dancer, photographer, writer, healer, filmmaker. It's probably a file maker too. Filmmaker and leader in me. Oh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Very interesting question. Wouldn't you want to ask, why am I afraid of my power? Why don't every one of you ask, what in me is afraid of my power? What a weird thing. I spend my life going to workshops and classes and reading and studying and all these things to build a sense of power, and I'm afraid of it. It's like you're afraid of your divinity. You're afraid of how your God self or your goddess nature, or if that language doesn't work, change it, how universal love itself wants to express through you. That power is natural. That's your God, goddess given power. So try saying yes to that, because it's really hard to stay out of your power center and unite all your different parts, because the power center and the center of will are the same place, the solar plexus. So you have to come into love with your power. And a good way to do that, to get rid of all this stuff that's old about your power, is to call in the sun itself, because the solar plexus operates off the sun, and that's the symbol for it. The color's yellow. Call in a bright yellow sun, bring it all the way down, bring it into your solar plexus, and just let it radiate there and give it permission, give the angels permission to clear out everybody else's fear of your power, to clear out every place you've given your power away, to clear out any cord where people have tried to take your power, front and back, to really, go ahead and do it now, to cleanse your power center and ask the angels to help release everything false about your power. And you'll start finding that that sun wants to shine brightly in you. And then you ask, divine, whatever you call the divinity, divine one, source of all that is, align my power with divine power, with the heart of the highest power for this universe, so that I may be in alignment in using my power. Align my will, we mean my will, my personal will, with divine will. with the highest will for me, that I may use my power in alignment with divine will. And then you let yourself be directed by it. We think of the seat of power as being, I need a little more body here. So if you think of it as, here's your seat of power, goes down into the second. So when you're sitting on your seat, you're right at the solar plexus, that's your base. And then you're coming up into the heart and being able, let's say your crown is about at the throat. So you're in touch with your sensuality and security. You're activating power, aligning will, so that your heart is in alignment with your power and your will, and you speak through your throat. When you align in your core like that, you unite all yourselves. That's really the secret, is live in your core, because the place of union is in your core. So when you're here and you're calling all parts of you to center, then the unification takes place. So when you're so many different pieces and parts, what we imagine is the dancer wants more dance time, the photographer wants more time to play with photography, the leader wants more time to develop leadership, and it's kind of like a timeshare, isn't it? It's not always so easy. And so there has to be some negotiation. So the way you can do that is, imagine you have like a little conference room in your heart. So maybe one of those sunken living rooms with circular couches or a conference table, whatever you want. And call all these different roles into conference and let them know, I love you all. And I would love if all of you could have full expression. And the only seemingly limited resource here is time. Maybe money, but really all that seems totally limited is time. So that's probably an illusion. So let's find ways that we can work together, that we can evolve interactive projects and experiences that lets all of us find expression. Let's find the integration of all these wonderful things I'm involved in, and know that occasionally one of you needs to say, we're going out to the waterfalls today and take photographs. See ya. Or today's a day for a dancing workshop, or whatever it is. So you give each one expression, but you also call for union. And you create this gathering place in your heart, and you live in your core, and that unification comes from your core. So discipline. This is really interesting. How do I really unite all my parts and eternally blossom in my success through discipline? Maybe you redefine discipline. Discipline's really important. Doing your spiritual practices, making room for them is very important. But maybe you call it self-care, because we think your mind will sabotage less if you say, I'm going to put in 2 hours of self-care a day. Yoga, meditation, grooming, being out in nature, walking without agenda. I'm going to give myself 2 hours, and then you look at every day and fit it in. And you schedule yourself first. When you're doing exquisite self-care, so much else evolves from that. When Evelina wouldn't meditate because she didn't have enough time, someone said, if you meditate, you'll have more time. She didn't believe it. But on the middle of a busy day when she had 100 things to do, she said, I'm going to try it. And she sat down and she fiercely meditated and she got more time. But mostly what she got was organization. So that's really how you stop self-sabotage, is you create a sense of all parts of me matter, they all get expression. We meet in my center and we organize our life around what's really, really important. So hopefully that will be helpful for your question. Donna, I've had to accept that my life will not include children of my own. Is there a purpose that will fill the void, or is that a longing that will not really ever go away? There is a purpose. There are many who come to this earth, especially in these times of change, without an agenda to have their own children. And it's a very holy and sacred life if you have children, if you don't have children. What Spirit really wants is choice around it. There are some who think they have to have children, then they find themselves trapped by it. There are others who want to have children and it's their glory. What you look for is, what is my glory? And you're destined to do service to others in such a way that that need to pass on your wisdom, your legacy, to activate other lives and help evolve other souls, it gets satisfied through what you're here to do. So when you're evolving that expression in the world that only you can give, you find that the sadness over not having children, the longing for it, finally does go away. It gets a different expression. So the spiritual bypass is, oh, I don't care, it doesn't matter. And then you get busy and you distract, but you haven't really dealt with the longing. But you want to investigate, sit at the altar in your heart, maybe at an altar that you're building toward the life you're having instead of the one you thought you were supposed to have. Because it's really what the longing's about. Because I thought I was supposed to be over there and I'm over here. Whew. So build an altar to the life that grows over time. And then sit at the altar in your heart with this sense of, what is this desire in me to birth? Is it birthing? Is it to raise children? Is it to share my heritage? What is at the heart of that? And maybe journal, maybe make some lists of, these are the things that I imagine the needs in me that would get met. And then go back into the depths. How can I meet these needs? And how does my soul want them to serve in my life? Might be two separate questions. How can I meet these needs? Journal to that. When you meditate and journal, you meditate, you contemplate, you let ideas gin for a little bit, then you journal. And then the third question might be, how does my soul want me to serve from these generative needs in a way that will be fulfilling for me? And you journal to that. So it's really when you finally own what you just did, I guess I'm not going to have children in this life. Then you want to go to now what? You want to let yourself grieve that, because for many women there's a grief, even if it's just because you were taught in your world that you were supposed to have children. We're going to turn this light off. I think it'll be more pleasant. Yeah. You were taught in your life you were supposed to have children. So you're grieving the fulfillment you were supposed to have. So you just allow that. And then do some of this visioning of, so those are natural urges. Most women were taught there's one way to meet those urges. Now, for you and for so many women who are past childbearing age, there's a need to let that creative spirit rise in you. And we think that's what menopause is about. Is it's taking all the creativity and all the power that was in the womb and the lower chakras for giving birth to life and wanting to move it up. So if you notice, the hot flashes are And they take the heat up. And a good way to work with hot flash is just bring the energy up here, because it's wanting to come to these upper centers. Our last Facebook Live talked a lot about them, so you might want to access it. It's wanting to activate these upper centers for a level of creativity that is transpersonal rather than just personal. Although we must say a lot of mothers have very transpersonal relationships when they realize that they're with children that come from a different species or a different time or a different cut of the cloth than theirs. You have to go transpersonal to know that you want to respect the soul and let them evolve in their way instead of yours. So transpersonal can happen in parenting, happens for fathers when they finally get to the place of, this soul chose my genes and my home to grow in. What does this soul want of me? And how can I best serve the evolution of this soul? It's a really good question for parents to ask. So when you're beyond that, and it's true for a lot of people who have finished parenting and then they go, I got another 30, 40 years. I can be productive because life is longer now. So how do I take that generative energy to a higher level and allow it to serve my soul's plan? And that's where people evolve work that's so uniquely theirs that they have to define it to others, because it's not carbon copy of what, anyone else does. So it's their own blend, it's their own flavor. And that's what you're looking for. You're looking for expressions that use that desire that comes out of that longing to create a new generation. Use it for other generations in a way that fills the longing for you. People might think that's a selfish thing to say, but what's true is when you're fulfilling yourself, you're in the heart of your path. That's how you know that your divinity is expressing itself, because it feels so good. You're passionate about it. It allows you, when you speak about what you do, to radiate with it. People go, whoa, wow, that's interesting. As opposed to trying to tell people something you do that you're not in, that you're not sure you want to do. So you get to keep recreating yourself, so you're more and more in the heart of your path. So we have one other question, and then we're happy for more. Natalie, what is the spiritual meaning of wearing white high heel shoes, wedding shoes, and a wedding dress? Well, we suspect there's a cultural meaning. White representing purity is part of it. We can see an awful lot of spiritual evolution took place without high heel shoes. If there is a spiritual meaning, could it be trying to get closer to heaven? But we think it's more about fashion and trying to make the legs look perfect, even under the dress. It's the thing to do. So there may be others who would have a better answer for you about this. What we feel, if someone conscious chooses a white dress, they're most likely choosing to really be in alignment with the light of their soul, to signal that in this day, I am most the essence of my being. In this day, I am the closest to my divinity. And wearing white and being tall is a way for me to signal that to myself and to others, that I get to be the purest of my own essence possible. And that's what I offer to my beloved. So that can be offered whatever color you're wearing, but it does tend to be a symbol for that. So, beloved, I think that's our questions. So take a breath and take a moment and let your light spiral down your core, all the way down your center, and follow it in. So calling in the radiant light of your being all the way down your core, and follow it all the way in, so that you're taking up residence in your core. Every time you do this, you become more one with the core of your body, which is the center of each chakra. So when you think about it, by coming in, you're activating your chakras, and your light is what they need the most to operate at the optimum. So we'd also say, if you're healing something like arthritis or anything else in the body, take my socks off. Getting a little clothing adjustment. I got a little hot here. So if you're healing anywhere else in the body, Evelina is so fun. Anywhere else in the body, bring your light down your core and then radiate it out to those parts of your body. If you add the Kundalini, so now you breathe your light down your core a few times and you bring yourself in. That's called the downward spiraling serpent. And then you ground deeply, change your grounding every few days because you're changing fast now. And then bring the serpentine energy with earth energy up, the upward spiraling serpent. That allows you to take residence more deeply in your core, which puts you right in touch with the heart of your true power and your true path. It also feeds and nourishes the chakras, which feed and nourish the organs. You can then take that mix of light and Kundalini energy and breathe it out to wherever you need it for healing. Run it along the energy meridians. It is the natural healing force of the body. People get afraid of their power or afraid of their sexuality because they weren't taught to use it. And yet it is the healing life force in the body. And when you have your Kundalini and your light meeting in your center and informing your power center, you're more likely in line with the light of your soul and of your true path. And in these times of change, be as centered as possible. Make it a practice. Center several times a day. Make it a practice to bring yourself in. Make it a practice to love yourself. We said parent, adult, or child, adult, parent. You're also, all of you, everyone who's probably listening to this now and at any time in the future, you're likely shifting your critical parent to nurturing parent. So you're helping that part of you that judges and gets on your case learn how to be kind and praise you. And it's really a job change. And if you do it with a lot of love, you can help that part understand you're really good, judging mind. You catch everything I do wrong. You're always on it. Thank you for your ever vigilance. Now, could we use it here? Because you'd be great for this job, which is catch me doing everything right and praise me. Simple job change. If you do a little kind, compassionate work with that part of you, they'll probably change, and you may need to remind them. You know, we tend to think if we make a change, it should stay in place. And if you've ever noticed with a lover or a partner or a friend, you finally come clean, say what you need, and they make the change, but they forget it. And you have to ask again, and they forget it. Well, it may take up to 7 times. So with your own judging mind, give it at least 7 times before you give up. And the same with partners and friends, because with your partners and friends, they're busy with their own stuff in their own head. And they may have listened to you and they may have gotten it in their wisdom self. And then you're out playing and there are your kids there not thinking. They're not coming from that same state of consciousness. Remember, memory is state specific. So if you say, would you meditate with me? They'll probably remember what you said. But if you're in the middle of lovemaking or playing or cooking or dealing with the house stuff, they may not remember. So you ask again. And if you need to ask more than a few times, you say, so here's what I want to know. I really love when you heard me and you made this change about such and such, remember? And what I notice is I've had to ask you several times since. So my curiosity is, what can we do to help you remember? Because that's a key to my kingdom. When you do that, it makes me happy, which makes us happy. And it would just be such a gift to me if you'd be willing to find a way to remember. So can we collaborate on that? You see what we just did? It's called a love sandwich. You put praise on both sides of your request. And then we enrolled the other person in finding a solution together. When you approach people like that, you're coming from an assumption that they actually do love you and they do care about your happiness, and they might be forgetful or whatever it is they are, but they do care. And so you treat them like they care, and you give them every opportunity to be caring. On the same website, there's a video about erotic communication that's about this kind of languaging. It's well worth listening. Oh, we love all your hearts. Thank you so much. The other piece about communication is that people might actually tend to say what they want and to invite another into these conversations, but then the other one gets defensive and they stop. And we say, most of you give up too early. Just breathe. If the other person's defensive and you take 3 breaths and they're conscious, they'll catch themselves. If not, then during those 3 breaths, you're able to have your conscious mind and your intuitive mind come online, so to speak. Because if you respond to the defensiveness immediately, you come from fight or flight, and it'll be defensive to defensive. So 2 or 3 breaths, and just wait, maybe pray, guide my words, my thoughts, my actions. And then you'll find another way to come back in with a love sandwich, a loving request, and an honoring statement. And 2 or 3 times like that, you're on the same page. Then you're working things out. So don't take the first reaction as that person's best reaction. That's the reptilian brain. They went, oh, danger. And so you just go, oh, it's okay, it's okay. So your calmness while you breathe helps to signal there's no danger here. And then you give them an opportunity to meet you in conscious communication. It's ecstatic when people get there. So stay longer and you'll see what we mean, but lots of breath. Donna, I've attended many rallies and created a lot of graphics for causes, but is there a way I can energetically be more helpful? Is my painting the animals I'm trying to protect somehow helping energetically? Certainly can be. If you're painting these animals with prayers of calling on the universe to create protection for these animals, and I'm calling for clean waters for these sea creatures and clean air for these members of that live in the forest, or whatever it is, to call for environments that really serve them. That is helping. When you imagine bringing in your light and linking your light with the light of other light workers, let's all imagine right now that your light is touching the light of other people, and it's helping to light up a grid around the world of everyone who's listening, or even on Facebook anywhere, that it's lighting up this grid and it's beginning to encompass the world. Your energy stays home, but your light touches all the other lights. And then we call in light from the realms. So the angels are lighting that grid. Light is coming in from angelic realms and the Devic realms and the fairy realms, and they're all cooperating to make a beautiful, encompassing sphere of light around the planet. That's wonderful, and that does good. That also helps to create change. It's really a matter of creating a groundswell of enough energies calling for change that it lifts the consciousness of those who are ready for change into the fourth and fifth dimensional consciousness. We're not saying it solves every problem on the earth, but those who are ready for an earth that lives by higher consciousness are able to evolve that, even if there's a parallel reality for those who want a destructive earth. It doesn't matter if there's other realities, it's what you choose. And by your infusing the planet with your choices and desires for more love for creatures, more consciousness around all these many affairs that causes are about. By you infusing those energies into the cosmos, you're helping everyone involved in those causes to have a little more light, a little more energy, and it is pushing the front edge of this species that's evolving. Sometimes light workers or activists get discouraged because they go, we're not seeing enough change here, and how could we possibly change enough? But all you have to do is push that front edge. That's it. Just keep moving the front edge out, because slowly over time, it brings all people to a higher expression. And we're seeing people waking up that would never have wakened up in times past. And we're seeing people evolve into their soul's work that would have just retired in times past. And we're seeing more and more people letting go of media and watching only those things that inspire, or mostly. There's a lot on the internet, but watching those things that inspire and choosing carefully what they put into their consciousness. And then we're seeing more and more people putting out inspirational videos and webinars and teachings and truths. A lot of what used to be something you'd have to travel 100 miles to learn can be right there for you any day of the week. So it's a matter of living the exalted life and calling for that. And then anything you do artistically that helps to symbolize that is useful and helpful in the process. The change is afoot. And we would say that many of you will in your lifetime be able to witness a much higher order of things, because this time has sparked such a fire under so many people to say the realities we live in depend on what we put out there. We are now showing up in new ways. And it's an activated consciousness that's really fun to watch. And so many of us on the inner planes are just like, yes, ask. Please ask. Please ask. Yes, we can help you. Yes, yes, yes. We don't unless you ask, and we're not attached. You don't have to. And when you do ask, there's much more opportunity to reach you, many more methods to get truths to you, and much more possibility that you really hear the guidance and follow it. So give up your fear of your power, use the sun in your solar plexus, and let yourself have and follow the guidance. It's quite a glorious thing to do. So we are about at our hour, aren't we? So, dear ones, it is truly a joy to those of us on the inner realms to have this opportunity to sit with you, to guide you, to touch your hearts, to respond to your concerns. And we would love for you to share this widely. We want this information out in the world. And know that we'll be doing this through the spring every Tuesday at 2 p.m. on Eastern Time, which makes it available to most people around the planet while they're awake. Can't quite do it with every country, but many. And there'll be a recording in a few moments that you can share. Thank you. We love you. Oh, we want to say one more thing. Last summer, we channeled through Evelina a new evolution of an offering that we'd like to mention. You can see it on evelinarose.com. It's called Codes for New Humanity. This is a series of 7 sessions that the realms of light have evolved, the councils of light. So it's in person. We don't feel we're ready yet to do it remotely, but in person. And you would lie on a table, and we bring in so many guides and angels. We put you in a grid of selenite and a temple of light, and then work with your chakras and your pituitary, your pineal gland, your amygdala, your consciousness, and all the 8 chakras beyond your crown to open you to more levels of your soul's consciousness. It helps you have more access to 4th and 5th dimensional understandings of life, which are so much less suffering. 5th dimension, there's no suffering. So they're pretty extraordinary sessions. So you might want to plan a time to come and do that work with Evelina and us. There's a lot of beings who attend each session of the Codes for New Humanity. And it's our way of supporting the evolution, pushing that front edge of the evolution of the species. So we love you immensely. Thank you to all the guides and angels who came to work with us. Thank you, Council. We release all of you. We ask these beings of light to bless everyone who is on Facebook Live, or listens to this another time. To bless each of you that your highest destinies may come true with ease, grace, and elegance. And may the realms of light bless this earth with so much love and peace that all beings feel the touch of the one being within and turn to the light. Blessed be. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you being here. I look forward to seeing who joined and any messages you'd like to offer. And I do offer channelings, hour or hour and a half, to people. It's been 15 countries and 24 states so far. And I do them by Zoom or phone or Skype or FaceTime. And it's my passion. So let me know if you're interested. My primary work has been for 40 years being a therapist, which has become meta therapy, which is very much about retrieving all parts of yourself from these traumas and places you've gotten lost in the past or the future, and clearing past lives and getting all of you into now to really live the life you want to live and to live from your core. So if you're interested, let me know. I am really pleased to have this time with you, Facebook world. Have a blessed day. Blessed be.